The Queer Life Radio Show, which is LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews here on KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this show airs live every Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. in the San Francisco Bay Area, reaching all the way up to Redding and down to the South Bay Area. We are live every Friday night, and this replays every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. on KBBF 89.1 FM, and is syndicated every Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. on KWTF 88.1 FM Bodega Bay. All episodes are streamed live from the studio via Google Hangouts on Air, which you can watch on thequeerlife.org. TheQueerLife.org has an archive of every single episode, links to all news topics mentioned, descriptions and info for all guests interviewed, access to Trans Atheist Podcast and Lesbian Honest Podcast, exclusive podcasts from the Queer Life family, and support pages for crisis hotlines and access to mental health professionals for those who are absolutely in need. Please like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thequeerlife. Follow us on Twitter @thequeerlife. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/thequeerliferadio. Disclaimer, what you hear on this show should not be taken as strict legal or medical advice. Please use your own discretion and check with a lawyer or doctor to directly address your legal or medical needs. If you are enjoying this program or any other programming on KBBF, visit kbbf-fm.org and hit the donate button. All your donations are greatly appreciated. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. All right. Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler. And I know, I'm pretty sure all of you out there have been watching the news or picking up your computers and going on this thing called the internet. There's this person called Caitlyn Jenner who all of us never knew really existed up until recently. And this has kind of taken the world by storm a little bit, for better or worse. Some people are really applauding it. I mean, so that's going to be in the second hour here. So I encourage you to stay tuned in. And again, if you have any questions at any point at all during the show, feel free to give us a call, 707-545-0318, and we will pull away for a moment. We'll answer your call and try to get it in, all within reason, of course. You know, KBBF is a volunteer-run organization. Like I said earlier, if you are enjoying this show or any other programming on this station, give us a donation. You know, I know you got to have your latte every single day, and it might be hard, but you know, one morning, this is kind of crazy, but one morning, go to kbbf-fm.org and hit the PayPal button. It's like super easy peasy lemon squeezy, and the Queer Life Radio Show will be eternally in your debt. Well, I mean, if it's yes, we will be eternally in your debt. So anyway, this is episode 44 of The Queer Life. Almost a year now. We'll be celebrating our year anniversary, if my math is correct, and it's usually not, in 8 episodes. There's 52 weeks in a year, right? Anyway, the first hour here, I have my very special guest. I'm really excited to have her on. I spoke with her over the phone like weeks and weeks ago, and I was just like, on the queerlife.org under Get Help, we have a gender therapist specialists list for Sonoma County and for the Bay Area, 2 separate lists. And so if you're listening from all around the Bay Area, go to the queerlife.org, go to Get Help. And all the people on the list have been spoken to, they've been vetted, and they have been qualified as gender specialists. Of course, like I said in the beginning of the show, anything you hear on this show should not be taken as strict legal advice from me. But I do have a specialist on the show tonight, so I'm gonna get underway on that. So this week we are interviewing Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. I'm gonna read to you her bio. Shanna Butler is a Jungian and somatic inspired psychotherapist and psychological assistant with a private practice in Sebastopol, California. Shanna has been practicing clinically since 2006 with her Master of Social Work degree, and in 2011 returned to the world of academia to pursue a doctoral degree in clinical psychology with an emphasis in depth psychology through Pacifica Graduate Institute. Specializations include broadly LGBTQ populations, specifically supporting trans or genderqueer folks and their loved ones, creative and spiritual struggles, relational issues, trauma, and addictions. Along with her private practice, Shanna also works at the Lomi Psychotherapy Clinic in Santa Rosa, which is a unique clinic dedicated to affordable mental health services for all people and specializes in both depth and somatic approaches. In addition to practicing therapy, Shanna spends her time deep in the realms of research for her doctoral dissertation, whose subject matter pertains to the archetypal nature of gender and gender fluidity, as we talk about frequently on this show, and the intersections of culture. Shanna is also an occasional lecturer in a psychology graduate program at John F. Kennedy University in the East Bay. That's where Oakland is, for those of you that are listening in the other Bay, because we do have some listeners out in the Tampa Bay area. Our last week's artist, Aristo, queer artist, house and techno music, totally rad. That is episode 43 of the Queer Life radio show on thequeerlife.org. Beyond professional roles, Shanna spends as many moments outdoors as possible, finding the beaches, rivers, and forests to be places of sacred rejuvenation. Well, you came to the right place. Sonoma County is kind of awesome for that. Shanna is an avid lover of the tarot, herbal medicine making, creative projects, baking and reading, anything and everything she can get her hands on. Shanna loves her family and friends with fierce abandon and is incredibly grateful for the community of which she is a part. Shanna has a firm belief that she lives with the cutest dog in the world. I'm sure there's other people who might disagree with you, but and she has pictures to prove it. Shanna is currently co-facilitating a queer therapy group along with Chris Spangler, MFT. Group will resume June 24th, and they are accepting new members. You can contact Shanna, 707-634-7793. That number again, 707-634-7793. Or Chris at 707-829-8293 for further information. These numbers and links and all that stuff is on the website. Visit thequeerlife.org. I know it's an incredibly difficult URL to get down, but we're working on that too. But anyway, I just want to bring Shanna in on the fun right now. Shanna, thanks so much for joining the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
Yeah, so right now we are baking in KBBF's Studio B right now.
It's a little warm.
If we start to get a little bit slower here, it's just because we need our listeners to donate to our air conditioner fund.
Yes, summer is coming.
If you're watching Game of Thrones, winter is coming. But the first question I want to ask you, and this is a question that I ask a lot of people, and I'm going to ask the question, and then I'm going to explain to the audience why I asked such a question.
Okay.
How do you identify? Cis, trans, or straight, or queer?
Oh, great. Okay. So I identify as a cisgender woman and also a queer woman, and I guess femme gender expression.
Great. And, the reason why I asked that question, and it might seem a little intrusive, but under any other context other than the Queer Life radio show, this is to highlight the idea of queerness and what it means to be. And we're disseminating information here. When I say cis, could you explain to the audience what does cis mean?
Okay. Let's see. So cisgender, my understanding of the term would be that the gender that you were sort of given, named by doctors, family, the people who raised you is in alignment with your understanding of your gender. And so if that didn't match or wasn't in alignment, that's where we would find gender fluidity or a transgender expression of gender.
That's what I believe the term to be, but as we know, terminology and labels do change over time, as does language.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a good term. It's really helpful, and it's affirmative in terms of supporting people in being specific about their identity and naming a community that's allied, and supporting the trans community and their own understanding of their gender too.
I was recently reading some kind of opposition to the term cisgender. They're saying, well, I don't feel like I want you to label me. I don't, the only person that can label me or define me is myself. There's, where did this term come from? I never came out as cisgender or whatever.
Oh, I see.
How would you respond to that? In an educational position.
That's interesting. So I've never heard any controversy around this term. I think whenever we're talking about two groups of people where one group has more power than the other, it's important that we have names to talk about that so that we can understand how oppression affects maybe the more vulnerable group. And I think what cisgender really does is talk about the privilege that is inherent in having a gender that is seen and affirmed by culture, by society, by family throughout your life. And that's a type of privilege that cisgender people have. And so what it does is it enables dialogue and communications.
Right.
I think it's a helpful. I don't know a better one.
Right. We actually don't have one.
Maybe gender language is evolving, and someone has something that can complicate the dialogue a little more. But I find it useful.
It's just really interesting. I've had some conversations with some people, and they're like, "Well, I'm not cisgender. I'm just normal."
Oh.
And I'm just like, "Ooh."
Yes.
Right.
We get to talk about power and privilege.
Yeah. Let's keep chill, Kaiya. You're not in your little radio station hole. But it's introducing new information to people who never had any idea that there was any other way to be.
Yes. It's shocking for people sometimes.
So can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Oh, sure. Let's see. So I think I first wanted to say what a psychological assistant is. So that might be a term that people aren't familiar with hearing. But what it means is I'm a fourth-year doctoral candidate working towards the PhD in clinical psychology. So I'm working towards my hours of licensure. So I wanted to clarify that. So my psychotherapy practices are both under supervision from a licensed psychologist, but my work in both at the Lomi Psychotherapy Clinic and in my private practice is really, I work with all different kinds of people, but I really try and reach out to the LGBTQ population. And so within various clinic settings, both present and past, that's been a huge sort of emphasis and a welcoming in my practice, that I want that to be a safe space for people to get the mental health services that they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this group, which we have just completed one cycle.
Yeah,
and it's we're so excited about it. There doesn't seem to be one in Sonoma County that Chris, my co-facilitator, and I have found that's quite like this. And the idea is that it's not a coming out group. It's really a group to support deep inner work that people are wanting to do who happen to be queer identified. And by queer, we're using a really broad umbrella term to define that.
Yeah, what's your definition of the word queer? I mean, obviously, myself on this show, I have one. I use it pretty liberally.
Yeah, so it's sort of the shorthand for the LGBTQI. Let's see if I can get it all. AA.
You've been listening to the notes.
So the queer is the shorthand umbrella term that's really welcoming anyone who identifies along that spectrum, or in some way that I have neglected to include in this moment, to come and be a part of a group where identity may not be exactly understood, but there's a sense of shared knowing. So all different walks of life.
I like that, a sense of shared knowing. That's, I'm gonna start stealing that. So that's
good.
Mine now.
You're welcome to it. It's for everybody. Absolutely. And so that we can kind of take that piece off the table. So if somebody's wanting to do work around relationships, so work around patterns of anxiety or depression, that the aspect of queer identity doesn't need to be feared or hidden or explained or taught, I think, which is often the role of a queer person, maybe in a group where there is people who haven't been exposed to people underneath that umbrella term.
What would you say to people who come from a period of time, from a generation that the word queer has been considered pejorative or used in a derogatory way to define LGBT people?
Yeah, I actually have had that experience with many sort of elders in my own life, in my own community, who fought really hard to have words like butch or dyke or lesbian be words that were respected, and really felt hurt by the word queer. And I understand that absolutely. And so I would always use language for them and their own identity that they would prefer.
Right.
And I think that's an important part of our history that I wouldn't ever want to forget. That's been a really hurtful, painful word. And I think of the generation that I'm in, I'm 36, that's been a really powerful word of reclamation for me and for many people in my community. So it's one I enjoy and use for myself, but respect others to use different words always.
So you actually use the term queer to self-identify in terms of sexual orientation and gender identity and an expression. Why does queer so well fit you?
Great question. So I understand my sexual orientation to be very fluid. So I'm attracted to lots of different kinds of people, and
not just standard biological men or women.
Exactly. Yes, and so I'm attracted to really. So that's where the term bisexual gets a little bit tricky for me, because there is very clearly more than two genders. There's more than two sexes. There's well, depending on who we ask, maybe limitless, but definitely more than two. And so that's been my own experience and my own process of self-discovery, as I find that who I love is fluid, and who I'm attracted to is fluid. And so there's
so
the
you're
word
attracted
queer.
to human beings, just in general.
Humans are really good people. I have a really good person in my life right now, and has for some time. And
it's a little bit more eloquent than saying human sexual.
It's true. That's a good term, though. I'm really like pansexual lately. That's a good one also, sort of that broad.
Well, then it sounds like you're worshiping the god Pan from Greek mythology.
Right. Pan had some good things going on, so it might not be bad.
Let's not go there.
Right, earthy.
It's too much fun going on right now. So, this is probably an obvious question, but what makes you, in terms of your own professional life and your role as a facilitator and a helper and a guide and a therapist position, and your future position, once your education is complete, why are you moving towards the queer community? Why is your emphasis focused there? Because for our listeners out there, there's a lot of queer people who are like, I don't need to be fully immersed in the LGBT community. I've heard many queer identified people, gay men or lesbian women or trans people say, I don't want to be a part of any support groups. I don't want to go to gay pride. I don't need any parades.
Yeah.
I just, what brings you as a person to wanting to support the queer community?
Well, I think that we all have an emotional life, and for various reasons, we might find that we're needing support at different times in our life. And I think that the process of both coming out and living an identity that may or may not be wholeheartedly supported, but certainly remains marginalized as in our culture as a whole, even the fact that we have to come out, that highlights the idea of privilege in itself. That there's an extra kind of support that's needed, and to be able to work with and have, again, that kind of shared knowing within my own community and offer the skills and the training that I've had through my education, it feels like an honor. It feels like life work. And it's really meaningful to me. The work I do with any person, regardless of orientation or expression, is meaningful. It's really a gift to sit with someone and support them in healing what is causing their own suffering. And to watch people just change their lives, miracles happen. It's such a great way to live life, and to share time with others. And so to be able to do that within my own community feels really important. And there's real risk, and we know that this is a vulnerable population. We hear stories of violence and suicide, and the ways that queer people have been wounded just for being who they are, and that needs help and support and tending and love, and I want to be a part of that, and it feels like the right thing to do with my time in that way.
Awesome.
Oh,
wow. I'm like in awe. Like, the word awesome totally is appropriate in this sense.
Oh, thank you, Kaiya.
Because numerous times on the show, I've had to report on sadness and death and suicide in the queer community, and particularly in the trans community. It's hard not to speak from that position as a trans woman myself.
Right.
And, there are not enough people out there doing the work that you're doing, I think, with the emphasis on the queer community. And again, I've said this on this show before. This show is called Queer Life. We're just talking about the queer life. Yeah. There are many other minority groups. There's disabled people, that need help too. This show is just talking about that. I'm not saying that none of these other people need help. Everybody needs help. Doesn't matter, if you are white and male. If you need support, you need support. And
Absolutely.
That's part of the human experience.
Absolutely. I mean, we, as I said, we all have these emotional lives, and we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable in this life, and things happen. Life events occur that we need extra support around. And I actually once heard a statistic, and statistics can be what they are, but I believed it because it felt true in my own experience too, which was that generally queer people, out of sort of the bigger population, seek out mental health services far more often than any other particular group. And I think that the resiliency of needing to solidify an identity, because it's often a life or death matter to solidify that identity, becomes so important that getting that extra help really facilitates that process. And to be able to have trained, educated, welcoming, receptive therapists to hold space for that, it really feels like an ethical issue too. I think our field really needs to get on board more and more and more.
I mean, as a result of Leela Alcorn, a young transgender girl from Ohio, I believe, 17, committed suicide, and her kind of dying wish was that there not be any more conversion therapy, or also known as reparative therapy. What's your opinion on conversion therapy?
Oh God, it just gives me chills. How horrific.
And can you explain what conversion therapy is?
Well, my understanding of it is it's a type of therapy that is supposed to rid an individual of their either their gender expression or their gay, lesbian, queer identified attraction. So there's this idea that a therapist or a counselor or some sort of person in a position of expertise and power can somehow I don't know what the word would be, therapize out the particular identity. And it's tragic. It's so harmful. It's absolutely traumatizing. It should be illegal. I agree with Leela.
Yeah.
I think that was a really powerful message and so painful that that's how the country had to hear it. That her life had to end because she couldn't get the help and the support and the mirroring that she needed.
Well, very fortunately, the conversion therapy or reparative therapy is being moved through Congress and the House right now in an effort to make it illegal federally across all states, and at the very least in California and more quote unquote liberal states, it is illegal, and the American Psychological Association has deemed it to be harmful.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, we kind of live in a bubble out here in California. And,
yeah, we do.
I've had people come up to me and say, it's like, well, why are you making such a big deal of all this stuff? It's like, I don't care if you're gay, I don't care if you're transgender, I don't care if you're purple, blue, green, whatever. It's like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, but well, yeah, great. I'm glad, that it's not a big deal for you, but for some people it is, and in a harmful way. And that's part of the impetus to keep working on this, for me to keep doing the work that I'm doing with this show. And reaching everybody, but that's why I keep saying it's awesome that you and others like you are doing the work that you're doing directly. You're like out there on the battlefield, so to speak. Here, I'm just like up here in my radio tower, issuing commands.
This is really important social justice work.
You're like a squad leader here.
Oh gosh,
it's like it can get pretty.
I feel like I should get an outfit for that one.
I know. We need to have like the queer army. No, I'm just okay. Attention, audience. There is no queer agenda. There is oh man, I just shot myself in the foot there. No pun intended. Anyway, this is a good time for us to go for a quick little break. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer. And this is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler, a psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. Yes, local. And we're gonna start putting on our camouflage, and we're gonna hit the battlefields. I'm totally losing it here. Anyway, we're gonna go away for a quick, short little break, but we will be right back after listening to a couple words from our sponsors, as they say fancily on the NPR. Do they say the NPR, kind of like the Facebook? Anyway, we will be right back. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Queer Life Radio Show here on KBBF 89.1 FM.
enriquezca su acervo cultural. Escuche KBBF, la voz de la comunidad.
Estás escuchando KBBF 89.1 FM, Radio Cultura.
All right, hello everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 44, Caitlyn Gender News and interview with Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. Shanna, thank you for staying on the show.
You're welcome. I'm having such a good time.
Great. So we were talking just about, we were just actually just talking about reparative therapy, conversion therapy, and why it's not completely recommended as a therapy means. You can't, from your professional opinion, can you do enough therapy to get rid of the gay, quote unquote?
Oh, no.
This is your professional opinion.
Oh, well, gosh. I think this is my human opinion.
Okay.
I'll go with that. This is my human opinion. I think a lot of the APA does not recommend that as a treatment by any means.
Right.
But who we are is who we are. And
isn't that a song?
Is it?
I don't know. Anyway.
It should be. I bet it's a lot of, I'm sure it's many songs, but that is an essential core aspect of one's identity. And I don't think that any amount of therapy can change that unless we, I don't know if there's an unless something in our life really shifts and it's an organic change that's internal, but an external source that is telling us that who we are is wrong and that needs to be different. I've be very, very skeptical to
very interesting
really take that one in.
For those of you who have opened up a history book within the last 60 years, World War II, 70 years now, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Alan Turing was a British cryptologist, and he actually deconstructed the Enigma machine, which was the Nazis' machine to send messages to each other and send battleships off and all that stuff, and Hitler and Nazis and all that. But Alan Turing, who helped to decrypt their code and saved millions of lives, and as a result was a gay man.
Oh, wow.
And there was actually a film done recently on that.
Yes.
I cannot remember the film. If you remember the film, tweet us at the Queer Life hashtag. Know your stuff. But
it's right in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was a gay man, and in Britain, quote unquote sodomy, which is what homosexuality was referred to previously. There was anti-sodomy laws,
right.
And he was given the option of going to prison or being given female sex hormones, estrogen, which is actually what I take, but as a result to cure the gay from him.
Wow.
And so there's been measures done in the past to get rid of homosexuality in gay men or lesbian women or trans women. Well, I mean, if you give a trans woman estrogen, she's going to be thrilled. But if she so decides to undergo hormone replacement therapy. But anyway, I am digressing right now.
That is interesting. I did not know that history that particular person. Thanks for sharing that.
But we've really moved a long way in terms of our understanding, and now it's we have people like yourself who are assisting people who have a queer identification, which is powerful. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing specifically?
Oh, let's see. Where to begin? Well, one of the ways I like to work, I'm really inspired by both psychoanalytic and Jungian theory in psychology.
Okay, use some big words on there.
So they're two theories of psychology. Freud was the first psychoanalytic theorist, and he certainly had some really difficult ideas in terms of homosexuality was a word that he used a lot, and had some really strong feelings about that, as well as some of his more sexist views of hysteria. But what came out of his work, this was the 1901,
revolutionary for its time.
It was, and so there was a long way to go, but his ideas really introduced a world of writers and thinkers to the idea that we have this unconscious inside of us, and that there's things that live outside of our main view, and that the more that we can work to bring what's unconscious into the conscious realm, we understand ourselves better and can live a little bit freer. The more that we understand these different parts of ourselves, the way our psychic landscape looks, what do our dreams want to inform us of, the habitual patterns we have, the ways our
you don't want to hear any of my dreams.
That would be interesting. So I really value the writings that have come out of that, using myth and symbol and indigenous ways of knowing, if that's important for a particular person, connecting to their cultural ways of knowing. So that's where maybe queer identity and one's particular cultural background, where they intersect, and bringing those into play. So I also come from, I have a master's in social work, and so social justice is really important to me. I love this radio station and what it's doing in this community. And so I've worked in lots and lots of different nonprofits before my current sort of incarnation of work right now. And so specifically reaching out to queer people as they're interfacing in the nonprofits that I've worked in. And one example I'm thinking of is the field of domestic violence, the field of addictions, and the way that someone's ability to pay for services might impact the kinds of treatment that they get. And then if we also have a queer identity intermixed with that, is someone able to access the help that they need? So all of those things are really important to me and influence the work I do currently as well. That's why I really love working at the Lomi Psychotherapy Clinic as well. It's sliding scale, so they're really committed to providing services for people who couldn't afford a $150 an hour therapist or $100 an hour therapist. There's lots of people who can't, yet deserve really quality care. So
there's actually mental health supports at a reasonable price here in Sonoma County.
Yes, reasonable, and there's no session limit, which is, I think, one of the coolest things. Yes, you can see your therapist.
Okay, I'm going to write this down. It's already on the website.
Oh, good. I can give the number too.
Yeah.
And so all of those things are really important to me. And I'm not sure if I answered your question specifically, but those are some of the things that inform the way that I work.
I'm ADD. It's all fine.
Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, wonderful. And I'm highly caffeinated, so we're a pair.
We're on the same page then.
Right.
But so you've worked in a lot of nonprofit environments, and you've seen queer people come through these avenues. Would you say there's any? Do you see queer people having a different experience in terms of accessing these services, or would you say that it takes a specialized kind of understanding? What has been your scope of this?
Well, I think it depends on who the person is that's on the receiving end of that client. And so, there are agencies that do a lot to educate their employees around what it means to be in a same gender relationship, what it means to be a trans person in the world, all of the various sort of intricacies and nuances that fall under the queer umbrella. But I have seen also ways that clients have been really shut down by their experiences and felt really misunderstood, and that's really painful.
Right.
And so I'm trying to think of an example, and one's not easily coming to mind. Well, even really simple things like intake forms. How do we ask if someone's married or single? That's
Right.
a really sensitive issue for me as a queer person. When there's been years and years where I wasn't invited to this thing called marriage, and but I have a really significant relationship that is important to me. And how do I get to talk about that on this little form?
Right.
Or someone just assuming I'm straight before asking. So there's all these. Those are little things, but they're also really big things. They're meaningful. Someone assuming a pronoun based on someone's voice on the phone or just their initial appearance, and how that can impact an individual's experience within that agency. I think when I first started working in domestic violence, there was a lot of misunderstanding around the fact that violence could exist between same-gendered individuals in a relationship. So the idea that lesbians or gay men could have domestic violence in their relationship was sort of a shock, and lots of shelters didn't quite know what to do with that. This was many years ago,
Right.
And we've done a lot since then to raise awareness. But continuing to bring that voice to the table has been an important part of my work.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, it's this understanding that queer identified people have all the same problems that cis straight identified people have.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's and we talk about it in a way not necessarily to highlight the bad parts that queer people have so much trouble, this and that there's drug addiction and but these are problems that everybody has, and what I'm just really amazed about in your type of work is you're constantly exposing yourself to this over and over again. That's gotta have wage some kind of toll on your emotional self. What do you have to do to gain support for in terms of your own ability to give support?
That's a really great question, and something that I've been thinking about a lot actually really recently, just because some of the things that I've been hearing about in my own community, my community of therapists.
Yeah, what would you say to other allies? That's probably a better question.
Okay.
Yeah, what would you say to other allies, who want to support the queer community, but you'll find themselves getting taxed
with the activism or
right?
Yeah. I think that it's important for us to be able to do good work and then step away and nourish ourselves, and that's going to look really different for any individual person. But for me, I have really a variety of self-care practices that are important, and
so you practice what you preach.
Yes. And sometimes I'm better at it than other times, and I also have a really amazing support network of people. I do my own therapy. I think that's one of the most important things. To be a therapist, that I need to also be doing that work myself, and so that's a huge source of support for me.
Yeah,
and I have a community of colleagues. I have amazing friends. I have really amazing family, and all of that is nourishing. And then I play and have fun. I take my dog out and be in the world. I make art and listen to music and the things that, just bring us alive. And
hey, stop having fun.
Oh, darn it. Absolutely.
Well, so it sounds like you're loving yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And knowing that things, some days are harder than others. We hear hard things, all of us, and we witness hard things, and we hear about tragedies near and far, and it's important to be able to feel those feelings and grieve and then nourish ourselves so that we can keep doing this good work.
Well, I mean, it's like I keep saying, it's awesome that you're out here in Sonoma County, because a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, Sonoma County is so gay friendly and LGBT progressive and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, at the transgender support group that I've been a part of called Transgender North Bay, which holds its meetings at Positive Images in Santa Rosa, which is an LGBT youth organization. we ran a statistic on trans attempted suicide, and so I've been rattling this statistic off, and and as you know, 86% of statistics are made up on the spot. But seriously, in terms of attempted suicide rates, and this is for the audience here as well. Anybody, whether you're straight, whether you're cisgender, transgender, gay, lesbian, whatever minority group, black, white, of everybody, attempted suicide rates for everybody in the U.S. It's less than 2%, about 1.5%. Still a lot of people, because there's millions upon millions of people in the United States, and as far as attempted suicide rates go for the LGBT, for the queer community, it's 20%, or 1 in 5 LGBT identified people, no matter age, nationality, or what have you, queer, if you are queer identified, 1 in 5 will have attempted suicide in their life. The trans statistic is unfortunately much higher, and it hovers, depending on which survey you're looking at, it's hovers between 40 and 65% ish. So I say about 50%, about 1 every 2, half of the trans population has attempted suicide. In Sonoma County, so we ran our own poll at this group, and of the 138 people polled and asked, "Have you attempted suicide?" It was 70%. And
isn't that tragic?
That's pretty staggering.
Startling, yes.
And I know from my own experiences in terms of my own transition, and from talking with a lot of other trans identified people, so trans men, trans women, that this is pretty common.
Yeah.
What would you say to to try to get somebody to understand that helping queer identified people is something that's worth doing? How would you convince somebody?
Wow.
Who's open to the idea? If somebody's if you're going against somebody who's a brick wall, that's you're not going to get through to them. But somebody who's like, well, what's the big deal? And
well, I think sharing information like you just shared is so important, to share the realities of what someone is up against, to not be seen or acknowledged in their family, in their culture, in the broad United States. There is so much invisibility still around queer identity. Straight is what's assumed, cisgender is what's assumed, and then anything else is sort of that falls outside that. Is often made invisible or seen as devious, and that can really take a toll on someone, regardless of knowing their particularities. Because we know that there's a lot of pressure and violence and just horrific things that happen as somebody fights to express who they are in this world. So I think sharing news stories, sharing these kinds of statistics, sharing stories from our own lives about our own coming out experiences, about the ways that we've experienced microaggressions in our day-to-day lives as queer people with our straight allies, our cisgendered allies, just being able to broaden that visibility so that the experience of being seen can become more and more the norm, that we don't have this sort of one dominant idea of what exists, and that everything else just disappears. And I think that's really the source of so much pain and suffering within the queer community, within those who have thought of or attempted suicide, is that there is so much isolation around their identity. They feel alone. And that doesn't have to be that way. We can help with that. All of us can.
Well, what would you say to somebody who you're talking to, and it's like, well, maybe they just need to toughen up, and that they, just need to get over it and, be stronger. What would you say to somebody who says that?
I mean, some choice words. I thought slot those, keep those in. But I would really want to make an argument for compassion, and for making a bridge across differences. That this world is comprised of difference, and that is so beautiful. And we don't want that to go away. We want to make more and more room, make our arms bigger and bigger, and widen our embrace so that all feel welcome in their uniqueness, in their individuality, and that there's a place for that. And I would really want to challenge that idea that we really lose out when there's just homogeny, and we know it's not real either. That we can struggle and try to all be the same, but that's not what's real. That's not the truth. And so I would want to educate someone around that privilege and help them see that there's a really vibrant, colorful, beautiful ways of being in this world that have a lot to teach. I think that queer people have a lot to teach the world about being who you are.
Exactly. Rainbows and unicorns and stuff.
Yes. And glitter and kittens and all of that.
Hey, I like all those things.
Me too.
But so can you talk a little bit about the structure of the support group that you've helped put together?
Oh, sure. Well, it is. It's really a therapeutic process group. So there's not a lot of structure. So people bring what's real in their lives, and there's a lot of interaction and feedback. And one of the ways that I understand this type of group work is that what one person brings really has meaning for everybody. So I might, as a client in the group, be talking about a particular relationship struggle, but I imagine, and my experience has been, that everyone in the room can relate to feeling misunderstood, or feeling that our partner was withholding empathy, or feeling that we just can't quite get our thoughts across, or we get really angry. And so being able to bring something up, and then people interact around that particular idea or theme, and that relationships are built over time within the group, so that there can be a way of holding space for one another, and tracking the struggles and the patterns. And myself and Chris are there to help kind of support that and deepen the process and make suggestions. And we have a really, really wonderful time.
Does it cost anything?
It does, yes. So there is a fee, and it is $55 to $45 per session, and there's a little bit of a sliding scale within that. And so you do get 2 therapists and an hour and a half of group for that, and I think it's a worthwhile experience.
Absolutely. We have the number for that on the queerlife.org website. This is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler. We've got several minutes left here, and I just love the work that you're doing out there, and just promoting some more support. In terms of this support group, is it open to allies? Is it to street people who wants to learn more?
I would need to we talk with everyone before they come into group, both either Chris or I, and I would really want to talk and be curious about that person's experience, but it's really not a teaching environment. Right. There's lots of places where that can happen. This is really a place where there's that shared identity, so that can be off the table a little bit. I think so often queer people are put in the position of having to do a lot of education, that we really wanted to be this.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know you're kidding. So we really wanted to take that piece off, so that someone wouldn't have to worry about needing to explain particular things. And they
so
can
it's a safe
do their work.
space.
It's a safe space. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question.
Just for some more listeners out there, I'm sure just by statistical probability that there's some listeners out here who have a queer child, a gay son or a lesbian daughter, or they're wondering if their kid is gay or lesbian or transgender. What would you say to a parent who is concerned?
Well, I would say don't be concerned. It's a wonderful life.
Now that's a movie.
That is definitely a movie. Yeah, that I think that there are concerns around the way that maybe a queer child or a trans child might be received in the world. I totally understand that, but
well, I wouldn't, saying to a parent, I was like, well, I wouldn't want my kid to go through that, or to get made fun of at school, or get called, those words that are very hurtful.
Yes, and that is such a real and important issue that what I would encourage parents to do is to get a lot of education and support for themselves from therapists, from community members, from PFLAG, from other kinds of...
What is PFLAG?
Parents and friends of lesbians and gay people.
Yes.
I think I got that.
Yeah.
It's a support network. It's national for, maybe it's even international, but for allies within the family. And I would encourage parents to really reach out and get support so that they can support their child. So the stronger the parents feel around holding this for their child, the more they're going to be able to offer that for their child. So if fear and confusion is what's being held and what's happening in the family, then that's going to be communicated to the child. And if the parents can really do their work so that they can affirm the identity of their child, whatever it is, and we don't know what's going to happen when the child's 18, 20, 25. I mean, none of us know. And so really just suspending that piece and allowing the child to be who they are and express themselves in whatever way feels the best to them. And then absolutely there's going to have to be the work around safety if that is a concern, working with the school systems, with the teachers, helping the child be as safe as possible, because that is a dangerous reality. And I would encourage parents to be really actively involved in that, rather than wait until we have some kind of tragedy on our hands.
What would you say to somebody who has a child who is expressing themselves other than under gender stereotypically normal circumstances? Somebody who's a little boy, we assume, wanting to put on a dress or what have you, and they're saying, well, is this a phase? What would you say to that parent?
Well, I would say that gender play is really normal. And probably lots of us have that. Lots of people who do not identify as trans have that in their background as part of their developmental sort of curve in life. And it's really normal. And we don't know. So we don't know if that's going to continue, and what the child needs the most is love, support, kindness, compassion, and the freedom to express who they are at every step of the way. We all need that, actually, even past 18. But that's something that a parent could offer. And if they're concerned, if they're worried, if they're running into their own internalized transphobia, genderphobia, homophobia, because we all have that inside of us. I do. We all do. We were born in this culture, and so it's in us, that they need to get help and support around that, outside of the family, outside of their relationship with their children. So to do their own work so that they can really be there for their child, and help them just blossom into the beautiful human that they were meant to be.
Absolutely. We have just a short minute left here of this interview with Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. If you could say something to somebody who is questioning their own gender identity or sexual orientation, they were struggling with it, what would you say to them to encourage them?
Oh, I would say to them, and this is coming from a personal place, I would say that the process of my own self-discovery and my own identity is one I wouldn't change for the world. And it was not always easy to come to feel as solid as I do in my own sense of self and my own sexual identity and queer identity. But it's also who I am, and it's what has made me me. And so I would tell that person to hang in there, and that this is all part of the beautiful becoming of themselves, and that there's so many people out there that may not know exactly what they're going through, but have a good idea. And it's a beautiful community full of lots of different kinds of people, and it's available. The internet is right there. There's groups and individuals and movies, and to seek all of that out and let yourself have the experience of being mirrored. So seeing your experience outside of you. You could take that in, like a really good meal. Nourishing.
Fantastic. Shanna, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, listening to my interview with Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. Here, all the links and phone numbers on thequeerlife.org. This is episode 44. And we're just going to go away for just a quick break. Here's some words from our sponsors, and we'll be back for the news hour, where we will be covering Caitlyn Jenner news and all manners of news LGBT. Thanks so much. Again, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show.
Esta es KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga.
Desde Santa Rosa, para el norte de California, la sigue KBBF 89.1 FM.
Alright, hello everybody. You are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. Again, I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner news and interview with Shanna Butler. That's what we just did in the last hour here on this episode of the Queer Life Radio Show. If you'd like to watch the first half of this show, yes, I said watch, you can go to thequeerlife.org. where if you have the ability to watch YouTube, and as a tech nerd, I'm going to tell you, if you have a computer that you bought within the last 10 years, it can probably watch YouTube. So if it's connected to the internet. Well, this is not a tech show. I mean, maybe that'll be something in the future. I don't know. I probably need to connect with this thing called a life outside of work, but that's all part of it. So you can watch my interview with Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. Links to her work and her queer therapy group in Sebastopol are available on episode 44 of the Queer Life Radio Show. subscribe to our podcast. If you go to iTunes and the podcast section, or you're on TuneIn radio app, which can, yes, also get podcasts on your Android devices. I am a super nerd, I know. But if you just type in The Queer Life, just one word, you will find this radio show and all of our episodes. Download them all, listen to them, go on a road trip, and hear every single episode of The Queer Life radio show, where you can find gems like my interview with Double Rainbow guy, Bear Vasquez. If anybody has been on YouTube, you will have seen the Double Rainbows video. Double Rainbows all the way. That's all I have to say on that. Anyway, getting on to the news hour. Today, tomorrow, and on Sunday is Sonoma County Pride. Today was the first Friday Art Walk. Tomorrow is Saturday is River Day. Experience the best of the river with your friends. Kayak from Johnson's Beach in Guerneville to Monterey Beach. Then enjoy an afternoon of games, food, beer, and LGBT shorts at the Rio Theater. If you need to rent a kayak, we recommend King Sports. They will handle everything. Blah 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 blah. Pride. The Pride celebration starts at 11 o'clock, and the celebration follows at noon. So on Sunday. So this is all a part of Sonoma County LGBT Pride out there on the Russian River, and it's some good fun. I recommend going out there, support local LGBT. You can visit SonomaCountyPride.com for more information. Getting on with the news here. I have an article here from VanityFair.com. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. If you have a TV, if you have a radio, if you've been on the interwebs, you have probably heard of Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner is on the cover of Vanity Fair, very Madonna style. The photographer was Annie Leibovitz, who is Vanity Fair's premier photographer. And this is a little piece from the article from VanityFair.com. All these links and articles that I'll be reading from and referencing to are on thequeerlife.org under current events. Speaking publicly for the first time since completing gender transition, Caitlyn Jenner compares her emotional 2-day photo shoot with Annie Leibovitz for the July cover of Vanity Fair to winning the gold medal for the decathlon at the 1976 Olympics. She tells Pulitzer Prize-winning Vanity Fair contributing editor and author of Friday Night Lights, Buzz Bissinger, "That was a good day, but the last couple of days were better. This shoot was about my life and who I am as a person. It's not about the fanfare. It's not about people cheering in the stadium. It's not about going down the street and everybody giving you that a boy, Bruce, pat on the back. Okay, this is about your life." This is Caitlyn Jenner referring to her experience in the Olympics and being on the Wheaties box and being seen as this Olympic hero of the United States. And for those of you that don't know or already know, Bruce Jenner is the father of the Kim Kardashian clan and series of reality TV shows. And just as far as commentary goes, this is not a publicity stunt. This is not part of the Kardashian reality TV show buzz to try to get your attention. This is simply. This simply should just be treated as another trans person coming out. She just so happens to be very, very much in the public eye and commands a lot of attention and has a lot of media exposure. But, she is another trans person. And the amazing thing about Caitlyn Jenner coming out as trans here is not the fact that Caitlyn Jenner was presenting as this hyper macho male in, Olympic athlete hero, and then all of a sudden becomes a woman. It's not about contrasts, although the media likes to play it. I mean, I guess I am sort of part of the media. I am the radio, but anyway, it's just about somebody who has been presenting male her entire life and deciding, okay, enough is enough. I want to start presenting to the world the way that I feel on the inside. And I speak about that from my own trans perspective, and from the trans perspectives I've heard from countless other trans people. But for those of you thinking, oh, this is just a publicity stunt, I mean, just, honestly, think about it. Who, what straight man in I mean, I know there's people who joke and be like, oh yeah, I would totally put on a dress and get on Vanity Fair, for publicity, whatever. But this is not about publicity. This is not about trying just to get headlines or to make more money. Nobody comes out as transgender to fool people, contrary to popular belief. Trans people don't come out as trans women in particular don't come out to be disturbing in women's restrooms. It's about aligning your outward self with the way you feel on the inside, and it's really just as simple as that. And Caitlyn Jenner has all the money in the world, and she can get all the support and help from professionals in all fields in terms of surgeries and whatnot. But as I have said before on this radio show, as much as somebody who is in the public eye, let them reveal to you, and it doesn't matter if somebody is in the public eye or they're not, or they're just a trans person living their lives, let them come and tell you if there's anything about themselves or being. And because being trans and being different, it's your own experience, and you can share that so much as you feel comfortable as doing. And Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, here is in the same regard. I don't care if she's a multi-bajillionaire or there's a trans person who's struggling to make it and can't even afford to get basic health insurance. And I'm not talking about surgery. I'm not talking about hormone replacement therapy. I'm just talking about just getting help in general, for basic health, So just let these people offer up the information that they want you to, because, we're all people, we're all human beings. And, I've got this, I've got the image of Caitlyn Jenner here in front of me, and this is a 66-year-old trans woman. I mean, she looks great, and this is a big step for her. Yeah, the feminist side of me is like, okay, well, this is a very revealing photo, and it's sort of comes along, if you're a feminist, it comes along, this can be interpreted as kind of like a misogynist view of women and objectification and hypersexualized photo cover here. But this is the way that she's choosing to present herself in her coming outs. It's a little bit more fanfare than putting up some pictures on Facebook, but that's her journey, and that's her call, and we all express ourselves in different ways. And I just want to posit to you, the audience, that not every trans woman wants to present themselves in a way that is hyper feminine, that is quote unquote stereotypically female or culturally identified as female expression. Because human beings and even trans people come in all shapes and sizes. I say that, from my own perspective, yes, I am a trans woman of color. Yes, I am a trans woman from Thailand. That's somewhat stereotypical. Yeah, I know. But not every trans woman decides to get on hormone replacement therapy. Not every trans woman decides to get genital reconstruction surgery, also known as sexual reassignment surgery, also known as gender reassignment surgery, also known as gender confirmation surgery. Now I'm just showing off. But it's all different experiences. And Caitlyn Jenner here, she looks happy. And I think that's great. And because I've had a lot of people call me up and say, Kaiya, oh my gosh, did you hear about Bruce Jenner? She came out as Caitlyn Jenner. She's trans and she's beautiful. And I think it's amazing. And the fact that people are calling me up and saying that this came into their periphery, that this came into their lives, and it's everyday people. Like, I assume most of you listeners are out there are not being fully. I mean, if you're listening to the show, you're being bombarded with this stuff, but it's more exposure about trans people and letting people know, hey, trans people do exist. Yes, we are a minority group. No, we shouldn't take priority over other big issues, like famine and poverty, to name some issues. But trans people are human. And humans should be supported, and that's all I'm saying in regards of Caitlyn Jenner. So congratulations, Caitlyn Jenner, for coming out and having probably the most expensive Facebook photo of anybody's transition ever. Hiring Annie Leibovitz as your photographer is not cheap, but anyway. So I just want to introduce a little humor here. Like I said, I'm a huge nerd, and I am also a millennial, in case you couldn't guess from my cadence and demeanor in terms of the way I present this show. But I watch Family Guy. I watch probably too much Family Guy, and I watch South Park, and I watch all these ridiculous things. But from Stacy Ritson and uprocks.com writes, reminder, Family Guy predicted Caitlyn Jenner was a woman in 2009. It's 2015 right now. In 2009, Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, predicted that Caitlyn Jenner was a woman. And Stacy writes, this isn't new, but in light of recent events regarding Bruce Jenner making her public transition to Caitlyn Jenner, it's certainly timely. In a 2009 episode of Family Guy titled, quote, We Love You, Conrad, in which Brian, the dog, briefly dated Lauren Conrad, Stewie, the baby, made this throwaway joke at the expense of Jenner, claiming that he was a, quote, beautiful, elegant Dutch woman that had apparently birthed Brody Jenner from her vagina. I know the rumors of the woman formerly known as Bruce Jenner's personal life go back a few years, so I'm not sure if Family Guy was attempting to make an insensitive joke at the time, or if it was just totally random. I'll just chalk it up to the infinite monkey theorem, which, in all honesty, is not the worst metaphor for the Family Guy writing staff, because Seth MacFarlane, that's pretty much all I have to say. So I'm going to play you the clip from Family Guy here, and we'll be back here.
Ugh, look, there's Brody Jenner. God, what a douchebag. I can't believe that came out of Bruce Jenner's vagina.
Bruce Jenner is a man.
No, Brian, that's what the press would have you believe, but he's not. Bruce Jenner is a woman. An elegant, beautiful Dutch woman.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that little clip. That was from Family Guy on Caitlyn Jenner, and that was put out in 2009. So, good research, Seth MacFarlane. Anyway, that was an article called "Reminder: Family Guy predicted Caitlyn Jenner was a woman in 2009" by Stacy Ritson, uprocks.com. Next we have on the list here is from Garva.com. President Obama honors June as National LGBT Pride Month, mentions, quote, gender non-conforming individuals for the first time. President Obama has once again chosen to honor June as LGBT Pride Month. Below is a copy of the proclamation where the president mentions a number of issues which continue to affect LGBTQ Americans, from employment discrimination, family and adoption rights, and, of course, marriage equality. Here are Obama's words. From the moment our nation first came together to declare the fundamental truth that all men are created equal, courageous and dedicated patriots have fought to refine our founding promise and broaden democracy's reach. Over the course of more than 2 centuries of striving and sacrifice, our country has expanded civil rights and enshrined equal protections into our Constitution. Through struggle and setback, we see a common trajectory toward a more free and just society. But we are also reminded that we are not truly equal until every person is afforded the same rights and opportunities, that when one of us experiences discrimination, it affects all of us, and that our journey is not complete until our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. That was the beginning part of President Obama's speech here honoring National LGBT Pride Month. And you can read the rest of that, and the link for that is on thequeerlife.org, episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, and interview with Shanna Butler. And it's just really incredible here that the LGBT, not just LGBT here, but transgender, is even being mentioned by the presidency at all. President Clinton did mention an LGBT Pride Month in his office, and mentioned that there needs to be support for gay and lesbian identified individuals, but failed to mention the transgender community. Of course, in the 90s, it wasn't as big a social movement, obviously, as it did now, because we didn't have Netflix. I barely remember a time when there wasn't Netflix. I know, but but it's and under President Bush's presidency, he didn't mention LGBT Pride Month at all. And so it's pretty significant in terms of this presidency and modern understanding and cultural shift and paradigm shift. We've really moved forward. We are in a sort of transgender enlightenment period, and I never realized that in my own lifetime that I'd be seeing this period of time where the word transgender is coming out of the president's mouth. That is just that's powerful. You know, our community has been saying it so much and trying to say, hey, you know, we're not asking for any free handouts, but you know, we're asking for some acknowledgement. And the fact that we are being acknowledged in this way and being recognized is powerful. And of course, the awareness in the media, whether you think it's sensationalism or not, has been a huge part of this, and very important in terms of our own recognition by American society. At least I speak about America, and what we have here in terms of the work that Laverne Cox has been doing in terms of raising awareness is powerful. As I said previously, Caitlyn Jenner coming out and making her transition public in that way is powerful. Lana Wachowski, formerly one of the Wachowski quote unquote brothers, Lana Wachowski, came out as trans, and it was fairly quiet. And that's been the case for a lot of people, but I don't blame them at the same time too. Yes, visibility helps people understand that we exist and that invisibility is important, but as much as is important is if a trans person decides to come out, they can make it as private or as public as they want. And you know, if Caitlyn Jenner came out and said, I'm coming out as trans, but I don't want to talk about it, I don't really want to do anything, you know, that would be her right as well, because we all live our own lives. Okay, of course, if you are Caitlyn Jenner and you've been a part of the Kardashian clan and you're part of this whole big media frenzy, there's sort of logical expectations that, hey, people are gonna want to ask questions here. And I know that even for myself as a radio show host here on the Queer Life radio show, having to talk about my own experiences as a trans woman and my perspective of sharing this news with you and doing these interviews on this show. It's just really interesting this time we're in, and it's really pretty surprising to me as a quote unquote 90s kid to finally have this happening. Kind of amazed. From AfterEllen.com, Trish Bendix writes, Sense8 premieres next week with a lead trans lesbian character. Next week, Netflix will premiere Sense8, their new sci-fi drama series from the Wachowskis. Remember the Wachowskis? I just mentioned Lana Wachowski, trans woman, director, and if you don't know who the Wachowskis are, have you heard of The Matrix? Red pill, blue pill, Morpheus, all that kind of anyway. While a little hard to describe, the show is essentially about 8 people around the world, sense 8s, who find they're connected in really intense ways. Among them is Nomi, a trans lesbian character played by transgender actress Jamie Clayton. Listen to this clip, which is a trailer for the character Jamie Clayton plays. So I'm going to play you a short clip here, and then I'll kind of dive into the significance of this role here. I pulled this short clip. This is a trailer from Netflix about Nomi on the new upcoming Netflix show, Sense 8.
I was taught by my parents that there's something wrong with someone like me. Something offensive, something you would avoid.
How you feeling, Michael?
My name is Nomi. You will be Michael until they put me in my grave.
Mom,
I think that you should go.
you're going to need your family.
You're not my family.
You are no longer just you. You have 7 other selves.
I've been seeing things, hearing things. I'm so scared.
All right, that was the trailer, the character trailer for Nomi from Sense 8, which will be on Netflix. That thing that pretty much all of you have. But the significance about this is a trans character played by here's a, I wish I had a drum roll little sound effect here. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find you a little drum. Anyway, this is a trans character being played by, okay, I'm trying to get this drum roll for you here. Wait, hold. Okay, by a trans woman. Okay, that was really lame, but yes, I know it's like, okay, what's the big deal? Okay, Kaiya, what are you talking about here? Well, it is a big deal. And it's the reason is, historically speaking, trans women have been played either by men who are many times straight or just gay, or by cisgender women. And this is significant of the fact that transgender people are starting to reprise the roles that they have to represent themselves. And for us in the trans community, when we see a biological male playing a transgender woman, it's hard to connect with it, because it's like, well, how do they know about us? It's like, yeah, you can say, okay, well, they're actors and they research well enough, but I've used this argument before, previously when talking about Dallas Buyers Club, with the actor Jared Leto, who is actually a very good actor, but nonetheless a cisgender male, a biological male. Whether or not he's gay doesn't really matter. He's not transgender. And having our own representation is powerful in the sense of, if any of you have seen Gone with the Wind, blackface and stereotypical black characteristics are considered offensive, and we wouldn't even dream of having a black character being played by a white man, because it would be offensive, and it would not only offensive, it would just be inaccurate in terms of portrayal. And so we're only looking to just give more trans roles to trans actresses and trans actors, male trans men who are looking to get into the industry, instead of having to get into the entertainment industry through less than scrupulous means, like in the adult entertainment industry, or getting into roles that are less than something that you want to show your parents. So this really is a big step, and I'm just so excited to see big budgets having a good trans actress on here, and in a way that's going to be more accessible to us. I mean, you've got Laverne Cox in Orange is the New Black on Netflix. I know I'm sounding like I'm plugging Netflix a lot. I'm not a Netflix representative. I'm just somebody who clearly watches too much TV. But anyhow, we will be going away for just a short moment here and hearing some words from our sponsors, but we will be back and talking about more LGBT news from around the world. Next on the list, we will be talking about Mike Huckabee. I wish I could have claimed to be transgender to shower with the girls in high school.
Está usted escuchando una radio cultural al servicio del norte de la bahía, KBBF 89.1 de FM.
Enriquezca su acervo cultural. Escuche KBBF, la voz de la comunidad. Alright, everybody, you are listening to the Queer Life Radio Show, LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. I am your host, Kaiya Kramer, and this is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler, psychotherapist and psychological assistant in Sebastopol. Yes, that is Sebastopol nearby, and yes, we do have mental health resources in Sonoma County, which is pretty awesome. And it's something that you would kind of expect because Sonoma County is kind of this thriving ground north of San Francisco and the wine country. Anyhow, Colin Campbell on BusinessInsider.com writes, Mike Huckabee says, I wish I could have claimed to be transgender to, quote, shower with the girls in high school. Presidential candidate and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, Republican, has taken a unique stance on transgender rights. In a video highlighted Tuesday by BuzzFeed, Huckabee suggested that in today's climate of increased acceptance for transgender rights, men will lie about their gender identity in order to ogle women in bathrooms. In fact, Huckabee said he would have done exactly that as a teen. Here's a clip of Mike Huckabee making these statements. You decide what is right.
And for those who do not think that we are under threat, simply recognize that the fact that we are now in city after city watching ordinances that say that your 7-year-old daughter, if she goes into the restroom, cannot be offended, and you can't be offended if she's greeted there by a 42-year-old man who feels more like a woman than he does a man. Now, I wish someone had told me when I was in high school that I could have felt like a woman when it came time to take showers in PE. I'm pretty sure I would have found my feminine side and said, "Coach, I think I'd rather shower with the girls today." You're laughing because it sounds so ridiculous, doesn't it? And yet today, we're the ones who are ridiculed and scorned because we point out the obvious, that there's something inherently wrong with forcing little children to be a part of this social experiment. I'm not against anybody. I'd just like for somebody to bring their brain to work someday and not leave it on the bedstand when they show up to govern.
I'm sorry, that was a sarcastic clap there. I usually try not to inject too much opinion. Wait, hold on a second. That is a sarcastic applause sound. I mean, obviously, you know my opinion on what Mike Huckabee said. And just to briefly go into what he was saying, transgender women, which is what he's talking about here when he's referring to men. First off, he's misgendering trans women by using male pronouns, which is, if you're talking about trans women in the way that he's talking about trans women and using male pronouns, that's offensive, rude, okay? Second is, this is not a social experiment. Trans people have been around since the dawn of man, no pun intended. But we have the terms two spirits, gender variant, third gender. This has been around. This is not something that's new. Gender expression and gender identity has been fluid in human beings and varies from individual to individual throughout existence. Average modern sapiens is 100,000 years old. Since the Pleistocene, since before the Pleistocene. I mean, heck, before society, people have been expressing themselves in different ways, and it's only been by the construct of society that this is considered, a social experiment. When a trans woman goes to the bathroom, there's only one thing she wants to do. Go to the bathroom. I mean, you might say, well, what if she looks a lot like a man? What if a cisgender, what if a biological woman looks like a man? Is it a beauty contest to go to the bathroom? I leave, obviously, you know what my opinion is on this. I leave that up to you to decide. And if you're listening to this show, I just encourage you to understand that being trans and using the bathroom that's associated with the one that you identify with is just a small piece of the pie. And getting out and living your life the way that's congruent with the way that you feel on the inside, and so long as it's not harmful to anybody. And let me tell you the statistic for trans women who have attacked biological girls or women. You want to know how many have been all time, all reported actual reported police incidents of a trans woman attacking a biological woman in the bathroom, a cisgender woman in the bathroom. 0. There's been 0 actual solidified reported incidents of transgender women attacking biological cisgender women in the bathroom. It's not happened. And I mean, the reverse statistic for transgender women being attacked by biological women in the bathroom is staggering. We have hundreds of reports every year of trans women being attacked in the bathroom. So who should be afraid of who? I'm not saying that I'm not trying to do any hate mongering or fear mongering or you biological people this or you cisgender people that. I'm just saying, chill out, man. You know, that might be the Californian in me, but you know, chill out, bro. It's cool. You know, we're just going to the bathroom. What's the big deal? You know. So that's my 10 cents. The link to that audio file is on thequeerlife.org. This is episode 44 of the Queer Life Radio Show. Mike writes on thenextweb.com, writes, Amazon picked the right week to release a commentary track for trans parents. Amazon has picked the right week to release the commentary track for Transparent, its original series about a transgender parent. 2 days after Caitlyn Jenner revealed herself to the world, and on the same day she premiered the trailer for her inevitable reality show, the issues covered by the series are firmly in the news. The audio commentary is available to Amazon Prime members in the US and UK online or via the Amazon Instant Video apps. It features show creator Jill Soloway along with Jeffrey Tambor, Judith Light, Gaby Hoffman, Amy Landecker, and Jay Duplass. Soloway told Variety yesterday that she plans to incorporate Jenner's story into the second season of Transparent, so it may be that Amazon Studios' announcement timing was not a coincidence. So I'm going to play for you a trailer of Transparent, the show, on Amazon Prime Instant Video. If you have Amazon Prime and you've been enjoying 2-day shipping, which I should probably slow down on ordering things on Amazon Prime because it's like, it's like getting packages in the mail, every day. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I just ordered myself some cooking yeast on Amazon Prime. I'm like, I didn't even know you could order cooking stuff on Amazon Prime. It's awesome. I'm just a huge nerd. Anyway, it's like you get a new present in the mail, and it's just like Christmas, except without the beatings, Sorry, that was a Freudian slip there. But okay, so I've got a little Transparent's official trailer for you here about the show.
Dad? So I have something to tell you.
Oh my God. I have to tell him.
No.
Yes.
Allie's crazy.
Tell me what?
Dad is a woman.
Does Mom know?
Of course I know that. You think I'm a dummy? It's his thing. It's his little private kink. Everyone has one. Right, Rabbi?
Well, I guess everyone has, one or two.
The reason that I feel so strong.
I have 3 kids. I can't live without my kids.
You gave me all.
Sarah's my oldest.
I was thinking about inviting Tammy and Grace over for a play date. Does Len know that you spent your entire college years lesing it up together?
I like lesbians. There's Joshy. Okay, back. He's my very successful son. Always a different girlfriend.
Where are you going? Let's just hang out.
You really don't want to be alone, do you?
Then there's Allie.
Did you get a job yet?
Twerkouts.com. That's our thing.
That's what I thought.
She just doesn't seem to be able to land. People live secret lives. And people live very lonely lives. Life is complicated.
Finally makes sense to me. You look like you're underwater. I hope, Joshy.
We're both underwater.
Yeah.
This whole house is under the ocean.
out of time.
You know, this is a really big journey that we're on. And you've just started on it.
Well, you still make sense to me. Your message.
Can you just help me out here? Are you saying that you're going to start dressing up like a lady all the time?
Honey, all my life, my whole life, I've been dressing up like a man. This is me.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that small trailer from Transparent, which is available on Amazon Instant Video. Next up, we have here is a really neat infographic I found on the interwebs. I keep calling it the interwebs. That's a nerdy way of calling it the internet. You know, because as you know, it's a series of tubes. I'm sorry, I'm getting way too nerdy here. I'm sure the nerdy people listening to this are like, yeah, woo! Anyway, this is an infographic I've got on the queerlife.org. This is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler. And the infographic is marriage a civil right or a constitutionally protected religious freedom? You get married in a church, but you can also get married in a backyard, a courthouse, a hotel, a restaurant, a bar, at a park, and on a sunny beach. A lot of people say, well, licensed clergy are authorized to officiate weddings. Well, so are mayors, governors, county clerks, justices of the peace, current and retired judges, and if you're at sea, your friendly boat captain. In some states, you can officiate your own wedding. Yes. On one hand, Christians have a long history of marriage, but not as long as Hindus, Buddhists, agnostics, atheists, and Jews who've had longer histories of marriage than Christianity, which has only really formed within the last, less than 2,000 years, about 1,800 years. Marriage is a sacred ceremony before God, which of course can be ended by lawyers in a civil court, as those of you know who are in Sonoma County have gone down to next to Empire College to family law and gone through that really stressful, horrible experience and dealing with lawyers and stuff. So sacred, yes, but can be ended with lawyers. Don't forget the marriage certificate, which is issued by the government, not the church. You know, this is and those lovely ceremonial words, which include by the power vested in me by the state of, in this case, California. So it's this idea of, is marriage a civil right or constitutionally protected religious freedom? Is it a religious freedom? I leave that to you to decide. Marriage predates organized religion and fundamentally has nothing to do with religion. Marriage is a contract between two consenting adults and the government. Marriage is a contract. Thus, it is a civil right, and civil rights are protected by the U.S. Constitution. And as you know, in the United States right now, and all across the board, many states are adopting gay marriage laws. And this is a big step for the LGBT, and not just for the LGBT, but for the United States, in terms of understanding that marriage is something between two consenting adults. I mean, very simply, and the government. Legal contract, two adults. Hopefully they love each other. If not, there's lawyers. But it's going to be moving us forward, and this is probably not a far-fetched opinion, but it's going to be legal in all states in the United States of America, and it's part of our experience to accept people. And just because certain parts of religious books say that two men can't be sexual with each other, does that mean that they can't participate in this thing called marriage? I don't know why you would, you know, but no, just kidding. But this is about just giving people equal rights. And honestly, I hate talking about it. You know what? Let's move on. I don't want to talk about gay marriage anymore. You know, let's talk about, like, you know, let's get it legalized and let's move on to you know, bigger issues like famine and poverty and stuff like that, and getting education in the hands of, you know, less fortunate kids. You know, let's, you know, this is a red herring, man. This is let's move forward here. And last on the list here, I want to just share with you a small piece of science, because being LGBT, I'm also human, and human things affect all of us. And so I want to talk a little bit about science and what would Europe look like if all the ice on Earth melted. Climate change, for those of you who haven't realized, is happening. So I've got a little short clip here from businessinsider.com. This has been shared by iflscience.com by the writer Morenike Adebayo. Check it out.
Sea levels are rising, ice is melting, and oceans are expanding due to global warming. Researchers reported in 2014 that the West Antarctic glaciers had retreated past the point of no return. The ice melt is now unstoppable. Other research has predicted that the Arctic may experience ice-free summers as soon as 2050. If all the Earth's land ice were to melt, our oceans would rise 216 feet. So what would this mean for Europe's coastal communities? In the southeast, the Mediterranean Sea will spill into the Black and Caspian Seas, drowning Odessa and Istanbul. And the Adriatic Sea will grow northwards, erasing Venice. On the west coast of Italy, the ancient city of Rome will be engulfed by the Mediterranean, along with Marseille and Barcelona. In the north, St. Petersburg and Helsinki will plunge beneath the Baltic. 55% of the Netherlands is already below sea level, and the rising seas will make it just a memory. Along with Denmark, Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Amsterdam will all be gone. The most populous areas of the UK will flood as well, including London and Dublin. All in all, hundreds of millions of residents will be forced to migrate inland, and some of Europe's oldest and most prominent cities will be erased by the sea.
All right, everybody, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. This is episode 44, Caitlyn Jenner News, an interview with Shanna Butler. Visit thequeerlife.org for this episode and more on the web, on YouTube, on podcast, on Facebook, on Twitter, everywhere. We're spreading the rainbow, man. Taste the rainbow. Oh, wait, that phrase has already been taken. But anyway, you get what I mean. Again, thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to the Queer Life Radio Show. LGBT news, modern perspectives, roundtable discussions, and interviews. This is Kaiya Kramer signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for listening. Good night.